Hello, I'm Nick Scarth, and I am working on a recipe for Italian bread bowls. Now, what I'm doing here is kneading the bread because what kneading does is there's gluten in the flour that makes the bread, and when you add the water and to the flour, among other things, the gluten wants to form long, nice, tight coils. And what kneading is doing is you're basically packing all the gluten together so that it's able to form the bonds um, to make those long coils. And what the coils do is it makes your dough nice and stretchy. So what we have so far in this recipe is 3.5 cups of flour, all purpose, and we have uh, a teaspoon of salt. And what the salt does is it helps remove the moisture from in between the gluten molecules, makes it easier for the gluten to form those coils. And this recipe, since we're making bread bowls, only has a little bit of lipid, because what lipids do is it prevents the bread from forming those nice long gluten coils. And this recipe calls for only a tablespoon of vegetable oil. And we use oil instead of, say, butter or shortening because we want our bread bowls to be nice and dense. We don't want any extra pockets from uh, butter or the shortening. So this recipe also uses yeast instead of any kind of leavening agent. What the yeast does is it makes all the carbon dioxide so the bread can rise and get all kinds of bubbles. Since uh, but first we want the dough to have those nice long gluten coils to be stretchy so it can contain all the carbon dioxide that the yeast will be making. So that's what we're doing right now, is to help make those coils. After we finish kneading the bread, we're going to let it sit in a bowl and let it rise so that it'll double in volume, allowing the yeast to do its work. Then we'll punch this dough, separate it into 4 loaves, and let it rise a second time, and finally bake it. So we let it rise twice so we can get nice medium sized bread bowls out of this little dough. And then, since we've been kneading for a few minutes, we can check our dough, see if it's ready enough. Just take off a piece of dough. Just kind of do the window pane method where we just stretch out the piece. See, I'm just stretching it out. And if the middle becomes so thin that we can sort of see through it, but it doesn't tear, then we know we've finished kneading. So, as you can see, we can kind of see through it a little bit. It's not really tearing, so we're good to go. Just knead that back in. So the next step is we let it rise, and so we'll put it in a bowl, put a little oil, let the yeast do its work, making the carbon dioxide while it eats all the sugars in the bread from the flour. And then eventually we'll have our bread bowls.